It's This Week in X for Hellions number 14, presented by Crushing Comics. In this issue, we find out that Tarn, who Sinister tangled with, is maybe a slightly bigger deal than Sinister may have thought, plus a little bit about honing, next on This Week in X. All right, everybody, we are here to talk about Hellions number 14. It was out on the 4th of August, 2021. I'm joined by Tyler and Harry, and we're giving you our regular warning. This is a full spoilers discussion. We're going to talk about what happened in this book and other books, et cetera, especially because this has the Great Ring of Arakko in it. We're probably going to talk about some Mars happenings as well, or maybe not. You never know. So that has been your spoiler warning. To get started, we always like to give our first reactions to the comic before we go in a little bit deeper. So for Hellions number 14, starting with Tyler, what were your reactions?
I think it's the same as last issue where I said that it is actually satisfying to see story elements converge.
Yeah.
And here we get that, as well as a shout out to a seed, a plot that everyone who read Hoxpox is waiting for. I think the art is not as good as last issue, but I still like it. I'm going to give it a 3.75, clones out of 5.
Harry, what are your thoughts?
It's not a bad issue. There's a lot I enjoyed, and there is a lot coming together, but for some reason I finished it and I just didn't feel very satisfied. There's just something underwhelming about it. I don't know what it is. I know that's kind of frustrating and kind of put out into the world, but like something about it just didn't have a lot of oomph or a lot of impact when I finished. I do like the individual pieces. I do like we're going somewhere. I also agree. I think the art's kind of weak. That might be a huge part of it. It's just sort of there, So I'm gonna give it 3.25 Tarn talk out of 5.
I have to say, I came down almost in the same exact place as Harry. I think for me, from the very first page, the faces were kind of off, and that really distracted me from focusing on what maybe was really clever dialogue, but like I couldn't really connect it to the people. I think Roger Antonio is a pretty solid artist, but I just don't know if he's got the likenesses here, and he especially didn't have Storm. So right from the beginning with Storm in that opening scene, I kind of was like, ooh. But he's great at drawing all the little masked people that Karn sounds after them, and some plots have come to the head. It's fun to see how those interconnected. Hellions has kind of felt a little off to the side for a while because Sinister's just doing his own thing. And I think it's really fun to see actually it's much closer to the center of things than we thought. So it was a fine issue for me, and it's keeping me engaged in Hellions, and I'm certainly interested in wherever they headed at the end of it. So it's definitely keeping me hooked for the next one. Before we get into any actual Hellion action in this issue, there's a scene which I found to be quite unexpected to find in this comic book, which was basically Storm's first sit down with the Arakko Council, some of whom we've met because it's the Arakko Omegas and we've seen them in things like Planet-Size X-Men. But I think, at least for me, I was really surprised to see Tarn there. I kind of thought he was off to the side because he was part of that kind of like Amenthean team. I'm like, oh, he's on Mars. Like, was I alone in that, Tyler? Like, did you expect that this is where we would find Tarn?
Yes, because it was shown in X-Men 16 data page.
Oh, because we saw that he was... Yeah, but even though he was on the ring at the time, I think I assumed he maybe wouldn't have come with them. I don't know. It was definitely still really shocking to me.
Yeah. Because that was the question I had when I read X-Men 16. I was like, wait, Tarn is not Araki. He's Amethian. So why did he come with Arakko in the prison in the prisoner exchange thing? So that was my question. And I mean, we did not really get an answer, but apparently he's part of the society of like Arakko right now. So
Harry, what about you? Was that a surprise to see Tarn there?
It was, because I always I know he was in the data page, and I guess that just left my brain, but I always pictured him more as sort of like this figure to the side, this kind of mad doctor almost. And it's kind of where the book started kind of feeling off kilter for me, because this is Storm's first big appearance. This is the first, circle meeting, or like a real like kind of talky kind of circle meeting that we've seen for Arakko. And then the arts and just kind of feeling weird that he's there. It was just like, it started to feel off and kind of not as big as you would expect it to be, that this is the first big circle meeting. And Yeah, so I kind of just left it a little bit more like, huh, okay, I get all right, more than like wowed. Even though like I don't think the dialogue in and of itself is bad. I like the way Tarn speaks. It's just something about it, you know?
Yeah, I also kind of felt like I just didn't feel like this had enough heft to be the first circle meeting. Like, this is a big deal. This is something we've waited to be revealed. These are characters, and I think actually Antonio handles the designs of everybody really well in the meeting, even though he's having trouble with Storm's likeness. I think all of the kind of crazy designs that Laras has dreamt up for these other mutants actually works really well. But I kind of wanted a little more from my first scene with all of them. I could have used more reminders of who they were and what their powers were. I could have used maybe a data page to remind me of the Great Circle. And it felt like we didn't get that because the real estate in this book is meant to push Hellions stuff forward. But I wanted to, so it just was like a little distant. I'm not mad about it. And I think it was good context, but I just am kind of like, oh, okay. Well, I hope that's not going to be it. I hope we get like a good council scene there and a book that has the time to really linger on it. And I do like the idea that Storm is kind of just omnipresent now. Like there's Xavier and there's Storm, and she's just going to be everywhere, and she's wearing her new costume, and she has some opinions.
Wait, is that the new costume?
I was thinking that too.
Like, why
is she still hungover from dinner with Doom? Like, this has got to be a day later at this point, right?
She's like, oh no, I love this so much that I'm wearing this with my dinner with Doom, and then I'm wearing this for the council meeting as well.
It's when you buy a shirt at the mall and you're just like, well, this is my shirt now for at least like a couple of months. Like, I wear it.
This is my new brand.
I'm not mad though. I think it's a really cool look. I think it's very, very powerful for what her new position is, you know?
I mean, tell the truth, Harry. Do you sometimes when you find that shirt get 2 or 3 of it because you know it's the shirt?
Every once in a while, I'm just like, like, nice to have a backup just in case.
Yeah, you know? Just in case it gets stinky or something. No, my question is that like, so Storm is on 2 councils.
Is she?
That's my question. I don't know.
Listen, we got to talk about Tarn, okay? This is not the book that's going to get into. I mean, I'm saying that might be better. I don't know. I'm not.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Tarn, because Idol basically gave him a look, saying that I know you're going to lie because she is the one who knows the future, right? She's the prophet. So he's like, okay, I'm not going to do it. And then she looks at him. And I was like, what? The first time I read it, I was like, wait, what was that? And then the second time I read it, I was like, oh, that was the reason. And I laughed out loud.
Funny. Yeah, I took it more just like her, like, I don't believe you, man. Yeah. Like, I just don't believe what you're saying.
But it's more than that. Because of her powers. That's why she's like, I know you're going to lie. So she's like giving him that look.
That's clever, yeah.
Well, and you really get the sense, and I think that this is why the scene is here, is he is kind of the Sinister of the Great Ring.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, and it's like Sinister just happened to luck onto meeting his match. And it's like, and they're totally parallel. They're both these awful liars. They both have this kind of wicked sense of humor, and fate has brought them together.
It's kind of nice in that way, like two masters of their craft just kind of eyeballing each other.
And so then he gets a fish blade. What are they, Tyler? It seems like they're almost like the equivalent of a seed, but also kind of like one of Blink's blades, and they also can carry a message, and they also go through time and space.
Well, I mean, we did not get. I mean, we got a data page of the vial, and it wasn't. It was written in a way where I think things can be read in many ways. Yeah. It is one of the weapons of one of the vial. So I need to you guys can discuss this. Let me open up that that issue and I find out what it says.
I don't think it's super important so much as I just remain really fascinated at the ways that the X-writers are finding things for the Iraqans to do that are like really unusual and different. Like, why assume their powers are going to work in the way that we're familiar with? So like, one person's blood is an ocean, which I'm obsessed with. But, like, why not have these kind of like, teleportational messaging devices that you can use to be recalled to it? It's just cool. Like, make up stuff that no one has made up before.
It's properly alien. It really does feel
Yes.
like a completely different universe from like what we're used to. And it's just enough like oddity to it that you're just like, I kind of want to know more. I get it, but like I like that they're not holding my hand here, you know?
So the only information we got for this in the previous data page is this character is called Mother Rapture, and the tamer of the bladefish, the mother of the second birth that journeys into death. That's it.
Okay, I guess that's what it is.
Yeah, it can be anything.
It's whatever you want it to be, really. The bladefish is whatever you want it to be if you wish hard enough. And I think we should keep that in mind.
Well, and I just, like, let these folks loose. Like, there's only, I feel like everybody's had the chance to make new mutants before. And it just feels like there's like an amount of credulity you can stretch on mutant powers at this point. And at a point, it kind of is like, okay, I guess you're out of ideas. But it just feels like a chance to run wild. Like, let's make up 100 new Arakan characters and let's just have all their powers be total madness. None of them feels like a normal mutant power yet. Of Iska, Bay, none of them just feels like a power that like a regular mutant can have.
They all feel like fantasy RPG characters that are like at least level 50. They've all been here a while and they're very good at what they do at this point.
Yes, that is perfect.
Cracked it. It's cool.
Yeah, they've got all the feats and all the high level customization. Yeah. Okay. There's a data page here, which I would love to read the whole thing because it is clever as heck. And I'll just read the title because it's a tongue twister. Elucidating the Iraqi resurrections by way of experimentally observed evolution in bacteria. This is a good data page. I wish it was designed to have a little bit more of like a science report quality to it instead of just using the normal data page template. But the thing that I think is cool is it talks about the way that in the real world, we've experimented on bacteria and used that to kind of model rapid growth and evolution. And that bacteria responds to the substrate from which it was plucked. And that's what this honing is. It's not just a undirected honing to make nanny more nanny and all the more them, which is what we thought. But it's absolutely a reaction to the place where they were killed, which introduces some interesting implications about how resurrection is really functioning. But B, introduces some interesting implications of what these characters really are prepared to do. And then later in the fight, we get the sense that Tarn can strip it out of them. Did Wildchild get dehoned?
Yeah.
Yes,
Harry?
he definitely
did. He did.
It's like getting your pet dewormed. Get your Wildchild dehoned.
I know. I that's what it is. I actually really didn't like that very much because they put all this work and muscle into like thinking out like what being honed is and all this like thoughtful prose and like almost science behind it. All has a logic to it. And then it's just like, well, Tarn's got magic and he's just going to take it away. And I'm just like, all right. I mean,
well, Tarn, I mean, theoretically, Tarn controls DNA.
Yeah.
So
it just feels like,
I think that is how he was like trying. Doing that, but
it feels a little easy, kind of just like space magic, and I don't hate it, but like I didn't.
You were just arguing in favor of space magic from level 50 characters a minute ago, Harry.
I know, but if you're gonna do all these cool prose pages and all this thoughtful stuff about like the evolution of these people, I don't want the wizard to just like never mind,
Yeah,
but
I hear you.
Yeah.
No, I agree, but I thought it was. It was like Peter said in the beginning, like this was like the power. I mean, the level of power that Tarn has was pretty unexpected. Like we did not think that he's that powerful.
Well, and I think also that Wildchild, it's like the lowest amount of stakes. Like we've already got all the jokes we're going to get with Wildchild, right? He's an alpha, he's grrr, like all the stuff at the Hellfire Gala. It almost kind of makes me forgive how bored I was by the Hellfire Gala a little bit because it's like, well, they had to get all these Wildchild being aggressive moments out because he was going to be the first up at bat to take away his powers. Now, I'm hoping that Orphan Maker's powers are not going away anytime soon, honed-wise, because I think that's interesting. And we get a little moment in the fight here where somebody else starts to steal or duplicate his powers because that's their power. And I was like, but it doesn't, I don't feel like it like quite got paid off, but it still feels like Wells is like pushing us towards the tipping point of some big revelation about Orphan Maker.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. I mean, this is the second time that Wells wrote, the confrontation between Amino Fetus and of the Maker. And the first time the vial stopped aminophetus from feeding on of the maker. And then I think this time there was a little bit of a warning too, that the powers is like forfeited or something like that. So I thought it's interesting.
Well, the crux of this battle is the Hellions are greatly outmatched by these Vile, and Tarn spills all of the beans of what the two Sinisters have been up to, which makes the Hellions hate the Sinisters, and which makes the Sinisters kind of have a bonding moment. And it's fun. It's a little frothy and lightweight. It's a lot of bodies on the page, which I do have to compliment Antonio for handling that, because at a point there's like a dozen Sinisters and all the Hellions and the Vile. It's a lot. And basically the Sinisters are like, or we could go look into our Chimera experiments. And they bolt from the battlefield just as all the Hellions realize they were killed by Sinister. And of course, Tyler, you had to be pretty happy.
I thought
how much you've been waiting for this plot.
I'm waiting for it. Like I'm like, when are we gonna see? I mean, I don't think I'm the only one. Because because I've seen like so many people like, oh, when are the chimeras coming? When are we seeing Rasputin again? When are we seeing Cardinal again? But the idea is not so much that we are going to see these characters again, but the idea is like we're going to see their creation. And we knew, we know because Hickman told us what happened, in the first generation, in the second generation, in the third generation. So I thought this is interesting. I mean, is it going to happen the same way? We do not know.
That's the fun of it. I think. I'm ready. Like, let's get this moving. I mean, it does feel like we are about to hit something. I just hope it is something and not like comic something where it's just kind of like pretend impact.
That's the thing, right? Like, I just wish that the whole section between Exosaurus and Hellfire Gala is taken out
in a way.
Yeah, because then everything is progressing in a very, very interesting manner right now. I think.
I get that. I guess we just have to like stay locked into the now. That's probably good advice for life. I should start I don't know.
Well, and I think the thing that's interesting is so often you get an alternate universe story that's playing out the beats of your regular universe story. And so you're reading the alternate universe story, like at the beginning of the Ultimate Universe, you're reading it and you're like, ooh, is this how Jean, has a romantic link with Wolverine and Cyclops? I've been waiting for that. Or is this how Spider-Man meets Mary Jane? Or is this how Cable arrives? Or is this Galactus? Like, because what those big tent poles are. And the thing that's really clever that Hickman did that I don't think gets enough credit because the books haven't been playing with it as much until now is Hickman gave us the alternate universe map first. And now he's teasing us with like, but how is this going to play out here on Earth? And I love that it's a plot that's been given to other writers because I think Hickman was definitely using it, but it's so much more interesting to me to like come to this moment of realization, as Tyler was just talking about here, of like, oh, this is the first generation of chimeras and we're about to see it unfurl, and Hellions got to have that plot. And that's just really intriguing to me. And I'm happy that we don't have to like wait for the next Hickman thing. Like Wells is so good. And I feel like there's never been a time at Marvel that Wells has really been fully given the keys to a kingdom. Maybe when he was on the rotation on Spider-Man way back in the day, but he's not usually allowed to drive. And the fact that he was given this plot that's one of the coolest, most interesting plots from Life Number 9 really makes me feel like, wow, like Wells he's not going anywhere. Like this whole time I think I've had this very abandoned child kind of thing of like, what? Daddy's just gonna leave, like Wells is just gonna be off the book after a year, gonna get some new TV writing job and be gone. But like, no, like this is Wells's thing to run with. And I'm more excited about that than I think I am about the issue itself.
Well, that's the issue. I'm going to play devil's advocate to this, which is kind of like, typically like what we've kind of been used to is like stories like this kind of, flow back into the bigger Hickman thing. And what we're talking about is maybe this is better that it's Wells's own total field to play in and sandbox to play in or what have you. But like my issue is with issues like this, it feels like we're heading toward a big plot point, but with issues like this, it feels kind of weaker. So I'm just like, oh God, like is Wells the person to do this, or should we give it back to Hickman? I think it's good on principle that Wells is getting to do this, but like my biggest fear is that we've been waiting so long for this Chimera thing to be explored, and then it's going to be kind of like this issue's level of quality, which is not bad by any means, but not great. And that's just like my anxieties about the series in general. But like I do like overall the fact that Hickman's been very generous with all those plot things he introduced. Yeah. So I hope it pays off.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, part of me also kind of like that this is kept small and that we don't get a lot of marketing about it. It's like, oh, chimeras are coming, you know, because we had Act of Sword, which didn't quite hit the mark. We have Hellfire's Gala, which did not quite hit the mark too. So I mean, I would rather be not have such a high expectation and not be disappointed than have it all drummed up and then it's like, oh, this is it. This is what we're doing.
That's really good advice. That's actually, they said like, you know, next month, the Hellfire, the Chimera War, I'd just be like, uh-oh.
I'll be like, I'll be really wary about it.
I'd be like, I don't know. That's good advice.
And, you know, for as much as we complain about the marketing and the editing of these books, I think one really clever thing that they've done on the whole is they're kind of just always promoting what the line is doing as a whole. And maybe that's to the detriment of some of the smaller books like Hellions or like X Factor. But like you're kind of trusted that you're going to get to the book and observe why the book is important without them being like, it's part 2 of Chimera War this month in Hellions. And I think that that's like kind of a relief because just like let the books be their own hype. And I think when the hype machine has gotten in front of the books, like for X of Swords, like for the Gala, it's almost inevitably created disappointment. So like better to just let us get to the issue and enjoy it as we did here. And I guess my thing about Hellions is Wells and crew have done such a great job with all the setup in the first year. And it's like, now we're in the payoff and yet it still feels like it's kind of setting stuff up. And I think to Harry's concern, it's like, can we in issues 15, 16, and 17, regardless if this is going to end or be interrupted by Inferno or tie in with Inferno, can we really get something that feels like a really big payoff? Because I don't know that Hellions yet has had any one big bang payoff moment.
Yeah.
And I think that this has the opportunity to go there, and I'm hoping it will.
It does. Wells is great overall. Like he's made some amazing comics. So I don't want to act like I have no faith. It's like
I don't think I've ever disliked a Wells comic, honestly.
Yeah. So I mean, I am cautiously optimistic. So we'll see.
Okay. Well, that's the right note to end on, I think, our discussion of Hellions number 14. If you're looking for discussions of other X-Men books, we've got them because we've talked about every one since the beginning of X of Swords, and we do it every week. And the reason we get together and do that every week is why, Harry?
Because X-Men is better when it's read together.
That's right. And it's definitely a lot of fun to get together with your friends, whether they're real life, digital, or on your favorite podcasts and shows to talk about these things, your favorite article writers, your favorite tweeters. And we're happy that you've chosen to do that together with us. So on the behalf of Harry, Tyler, and myself, thanks so much for being a part of This Week in X, discussing Hellions number 14. And until we get to talk to you again, we hope very much that you are well.
Bye.
See ya.